Hi, welcome back to the Let's Be Authentic podcast, hosted by yours truly, Alana. So, for this week's podcast, I kind of just wanted to delve more into my beginnings and how I got into video editing, as well as some lessons that I've learned, some advice that I've gotten along the way, and how I'm doing things now. So, the way I got into video editing actually is not through looking up to someone who was doing it or particularly wanting to do it for ages before and finally getting into it. It was just that I was curious about different ways of making income online, and one of my friends was doing this program or this kind of school called Hustlers University. And at the time, at least, it was based on Discord, and there's these different subsections to it. And there was different ways of making money through like freelancing, which obviously you can develop into an agency after, but it was just the basic kind of getting to know the skill beforehand. There was video editing, e-commerce, copywriting, and I believe like one or two more, but I can't remember. And the two things that stuck out to me were copywriting and video editing, which I still have like now. Copywriting I really love because I love to write, but my way of writing is very much English class writing. So it doesn't work for copywriting, but it's still something that I very much enjoy learning more of and getting better at every day, pretty much. So yeah, that was kind of how I got into it. And it also kind of led to my first two clients, which those two also taught me two very important things, which were taking the 50% down payment because one of them never paid me for my service or just the video editing that I provided, which was actually like, I think it was 5 videos in around 2 weeks. The planning was all over the place. Like it was just overall not a very positive experience. And the second one was just to keep following up with the person who worked with, because you never know where it can lead. And also you want to build on those relationships. It's so important to. And obviously I was new to it, so I didn't think of doing that or know to do it. But it's definitely something that I was taught earlier on. And I'm really actually grateful that I did, because I had nothing to lose really back then. So it didn't really matter as much. And it's so great that I was able to kind of take those two things so early on and apply them now when the stakes are a little bit higher. So when I actually started in Spain this year, I basically could not decide on the service that I wanted to provide. I had brand identity, I had web design, I had video editing, and I had social media marketing, which those you could like provide all of them in an agency or just a business in general. But since I was so early on and definitely good at video editing, but it's just not possible to take on so many different skill sets at the beginning and expect to have a result within like 6 months to a year. At least I don't not in my case, or just not in, I don't think it's possible. So it's just, I was working all day on things that were going nowhere pretty much. And I was just really struggling to find which one would work for me, and really struggling to tell myself that this could work and that I wasn't just not meant for this, because that's what I kind of came to the conclusion of many times, because I would wake up at 5 a.m., go to bed at 2 a.m. and barely sleep, and then come back and do the same thing that I would not be excited about. And mind you, you don't have to be excited about everything, but you still have to want to do it to be able to make progress. And there was just none of that. I was just doing it because I saw those who I wanted to look up to doing it as well. The only difference is that they were 3-4 years in front of me, and they had the infrastructure and just ability to provide several services because they had a team, they had the income as well, the ability to invest in different people and different equipment. It just wasn't viable. And so it just didn't work out, and I was working myself into the ground. I had the worst anxiety and brain fog and was just genuinely miserable. Although I didn't see it until at least a month or so in, when I was barely awake most of the day, but to a very concerning point, until one of my friends just told me that I was being an idiot for not focusing on what I could already do and just honing in on that skill and moving forward with it, which makes so much sense. But back then it was kind of like a groundbreaking moment for me, where I was like, oh my God, yes, of course, yeah. So a lot of things changed as soon as I decided to focus more on just one skill. And yet I also found later on, so recently, that even then, when I was told to focus, I didn't really understand what focusing meant. To me, focus was, as long as I have this one skill that I am doing at that moment, I'm focusing on it. And obviously that's not what focus means. It's picking 2 or 3 things that you need to be like just hone in on and put your all into. And it's impossible to focus and put your all into 7 different skills, especially not in the beginning. And so I kind of resorted, especially in the beginning, when I was looking for just guidance and community and just in general, to feel like I had control over it, which I didn't. And there are so many overpriced programs and just courses, webinars, all this kind of stuff that was incredibly out of my reach financially, but I was actually considering doing because of how confused and lost and overwhelmed I was. And I'm so happy that I didn't go for them, because after reading actually Influence, I think it's Influence of Psychology of Persuasion, I can now spot pretty fast when something is untruthful, just dishonest, and that person is trying to kind of manipulate you into getting their course, even if it doesn't really benefit you. And obviously it's for their own gain as well, which but there's just a certain way to go about it, which is honest, and then there's another way which is just honestly like it's gross to me. So I also wanted to kind of talk about this thing that I find quite a few people that I've spoken to struggle with, is this need to kind of come up with this groundbreaking, like reinventing the wheel when it comes to the service that you want to provide or just work on. It's just not realistic unless from the start you actually genuinely happen to see a gap in the market and you're like, wow, this is how I come in. This is new. This is not really heard of, or this is completely new and this is unheard of. Obviously jump on that, but it's much better, especially when you're just starting out, to really do your best to become amazing at what you do, so that people refer you and people want to work with you. And then it makes as well pitching and just easier as well, because you believe in what you're selling and you genuinely know that you'll be able to help that person, which is the whole point. But it happens so often that people just don't believe in what they're selling. And it's so much easier to when you know that you can help that person. So wanting to reinvent the wheel is just not realistic. And it's something that I had to learn as well, just the hard way, after going over it for just weeks of looking at so many useless videos instead of just taking action on editing, like just editing new videos or filming the environment around me and editing that footage to be able to put it on my portfolio and just kind of show what I can do. I was way too busy on trying to find some course that I could do that would teach me something that I thought that I was missing. It's like I also see this quite often is we're kind of looking for this like pill or just this like moment of, wow, like just this one thing you're gonna tap into something and then it's gonna be incredible all of a sudden, when that's really not how it works. And it was, again, something that I had to learn, but once you do, you get so much clarity from it, or that's what I found at least. There's also this concept on LinkedIn that I was starting to learn about slowly called the personal brand. And when I originally was getting into LinkedIn at first, which was, I think, a year and a half ago, to me, the platform was extremely uninteresting, which it might have already been back then, but not to me. I could not see any potential there. And I was very much an Instagram girl. Like, I just loved Instagram, wanted to promote my business through there. But when I went back onto LinkedIn, I think it's been 4 months now, I saw this entire new kind of perspective of people being honest about what they're doing, people being honest about what the process was. And it just kind of opened my eyes as to the fact that I'd kind of been getting the information from the wrong places in order to make progress. And I saw all these people with this like talking about personal branding. So the more I looked into it, the more I was interested. The profile optimization, telling people what you do, having a clear call to action, the formatting of the post, hook sentences, all this kind of thing was so interesting to me, and it still is, that I really wanted to learn how to use that in order to just make myself known and build a reputation for myself, because as it's kind of known now that people would rather work with people and not just businesses. So personal branding is like honestly more important than ever. And it's been such a huge kind of, obviously a very big learning curve, but by staying consistent with it, I'm now starting to see the results of that. And it's so encouraging to see the efforts that you put into something start to come back. And it just encourages you to keep pushing, keep learning, keep connecting with people, and keep adding value, especially, and not like constantly asking. That's like a huge thing. And I'm definitely more so aware of the importance of personal branding now, and I'm definitely building mine, as well as recommending LinkedIn as a B2B platform to those who want to build their personal branding in that way. Another thing that I was recently told is this term called ruthless focus. I was told this, and it just clicked in me, something, and all of a sudden, like, the term just made me understand what to focus and how to focus. Because focusing, you can be told to focus all you want. If you don't understand what said focus means and how it can be impactful, it's really hard to, first of all, implement it and really understand or get into it if you don't know why it'll impact. And so what I have actually right now is a sticky note on my computer that I've stuck. And it just says focus on doing. Doing is in capital letters. And it has 3 things that I'm focusing on. So for me, it's LinkedIn for my personal brand, videos, and podcasting, which those 2 kind of tie into each other. So all in all, it's 2, but like videography and the podcast are 2, I see them as separate for the moment. And just this clarity that it's brought me has definitely changed the way that I do things and the progress that I've been able to make. And honestly, I think it's been like nearly 2 weeks, but just by doing that, it has changed the way that I can now see myself making progress in the future, and that I can see myself having made progress as well, because I know how to set this 3 core tasks that I do. It's something that I learned from the podcast Business Made Simple from Donald Miller. And it's this concept where you set 3 tasks that are crucial to taking the next step, and that you know will compound over time if you keep putting in the consistency and efforts daily. And sometimes I just do 2 of them, but most of the time I get the 3 done, and that is how I see results, is by knowing what to focus on. So if it's like a podcast, for instance, I'll record a video like I am now, and even if I don't have the audience, you just post it, and then you just keep going. And for personal branding, it's learning how to format, testing out, consistency again, and showing up, and just this focus on the end goal, and then reverse engineering it to be able to figure out how to progress over time in order to attain that goal. And so that has truly helped me, both of those, so the 3 core tasks and the focusing, has helped me tremendously to start to actually make and see viable progress. So kind of the key takeaway from these past few months for me has definitely been, and I know that I've read it before, but understanding what it means has been a game changer, is understanding the purpose of doing one service, focusing on one audience and one platform. Because I have also heard of taking on 1 or 2 platforms, maybe even 3. I find that too much. Personally, I just do LinkedIn right now, and I focus fully on that. And then when I have that down, then I might move on to another one, probably Instagram. But for the moment, I'm focusing on just one service, which is the videography, and then one audience, which, to be honest, since I'm still starting out, I have a audience that I would like to go for. But obviously at the start, you just have to focus on selling and pitching your services to whoever is willing to work with you and give you the experience and testimonials, and just overall gaining the momentum, if you will. And the one platform is truly just a game changer. So that's kind of what I wanted to elaborate more on, or go more into details on, for this week. If you have any questions, if anyone wants to mention anything in the comments about something that I said, or maybe something that I would want to they would want to go over in the next video, I'd be more than happy to. And yeah, don't forget to like, subscribe, or just be able to, so that you can follow along on the kind of path that I'm going around. And yeah, that's about it. Thanks for listening.